Thanks for joining me on this lovely Thursday here at the Chamber for the Lunch and Learn. I'm Steph Mazanowski, for those of you who don't know me. My business is Masterminds Media. I created it a little 2 or 3 years ago as kind of an umbrella company for all the things that I do. I've been a professional photographer for 15 years. NazPix Photography is my photography business. And then 6 years ago, I started the Neighbors of Southwestern Bloomington magazine. And then in 2019, I started the BN Sports magazine. And then in 2021, I took over the Northeast Side Neighbors magazine. So when somebody asked me, what is it that you do? It was really hard to put all of that into one. So I created Masterminds Media as kind of this umbrella company for all the things. So I'm a marketing expert, professional photographer, community connector, all in one. So I want to go ahead and get started here, but is it spacebar? Arrow. Quick shout out to Cheap Family Express for lunch today. They do catering, as you can see, so please think of them if you guys ever need any catering options for your organization. There's some menus in there. One, otherwise there's a little, but if you scan that, there's a QR code on their menu as well. Located on GE Road to this Joe's Pub. So they're here to learn about the secrets of branding. I hope to be able to indulge you in those secrets. Branding defined is the world's perception or impression of you based on your experience, your expertise, your actions, and your achievements within a community or an industry. I really like that definition because it really encompasses all the pieces of branding. In short, it's your reputation. And there is a magic formula to this. And it is seen, heard, and felt. So as you think about marketing for your businesses, ask yourself, being seen, am I being heard? Am I being felt? If so, that's the elements of a strong brand. What we're going to talk about today is how to be seen, how to be heard, how to be felt. Big surprise. And there's a few components that go in with that. We're also going to talk about leveraging partnerships within the community, a little bit of networking, and I'll touch a little bit on marketing as well. So defining your brand, I would venture to guess that most of you in here probably already have colors, a logo, slogan, motto. That's just part of branding. There's so much more to it. So I encourage you to be able to verbalize what it is that you do and be clear, like a 30-second elevator pitch for networking opportunities. Really think that through. What do you say to people whenever you say, like, this is what I do? Do you feel confident and comfortable saying those things? And if not, take some time to build that and then practice it. Read it in a safe networking space. So that way you do get really good at it. So in front of you guys, you have a worksheet, and we're going to kind of work on pieces throughout the day. Don't feel like you have to complete it, because I know that there might be some thought that needs to go into it. But if something comes to mind, it's in front of you, just jot it down. Your first action item is to work on your elevator pitch. So there's a few components of an elevator pitch. Your name, hopefully you can at least get that one right. Your role within the organization or your business, a tagline, a unique selling point, and a call to action. So an example of that, mine would be Steph Mazanowski, Masterminds Media, marketing expert, photographer, community connector. I'm your next set of eyes, ears, and voice for you in the community. I help businesses connect and grow in a variety of different ways, primarily through my 3 local publications, but also online and through my network. Let's grab coffee, right? So something simple like that. That's what I pretty much say in every single networking opportunity. I'm comfortable with it. It flows, all the things. So if something comes to mind, jot it down. Again, like this is, in a perfect world, you'd have this complete when you leave here, but I know it's going to take some thought. So moving on. want to do a quick exercise and demonstration for you guys. We're gonna order a coffee. One of these are you gonna order from? David?
Starbucks.
If you need gas, where are you stopping? Okay. Going on a trip, which of these airlines might you book? Okay. All right, we're gonna try something local. And this is not to offend anyone. Hopefully I picked a no-brainer. Your furnace is out. Who are you gonna call?
WM Masters.
So the question is why? Why are you calling and stopping and getting gas at those places? Anybody have an answer?
Well known.
Well known.
It's familiar. You read
Familiar. Familiarity. It's brand recognition. It's a familiarity principle. Our brains tend to choose things like we choose our friends. You choose what's familiar. It's human tendency to develop a preference for people, things, places, whatever it is, you gravitate towards the familiar. The most well-known brand usually wins. If everybody's lined up in a mix, it's whoever you've seen the most or whoever you've had the best experience with, right? I think there was a stat there, but you know, in my notes, 85% of buyers prefer familiar brands over non-mainstream or new brands. So if you are a new brand, that's not to say there's no chance. It's say you have some work to do, right? It means you have to get your brand out there. You have to be able to be recognizable so that you do get a piece of the market share. It's not an instant process. It's 8 to 15 touches now to get a message out there. It used to be like 5 to 7 or whatever, but we're served up so many ads on a daily basis that you have to be seen from multiple places. Which brings us to being seen. The first piece of the formula, you have to be consistent across all platforms. Car wraps, signage at your building, apparel, your website, social media platforms, LinkedIn, Alignable, Facebook, neighbor listing, all of the places, no matter where somebody logs on to see you or no matter where somebody sees you offline, it should all look and feel the same. You also need to be discoverable. So search engines like it when your information is consistent across all platforms. This is impossible to do without a listing service. So there's 100 plus different platforms and we all use different things. You might use MapQuest, I might use Google Maps, you might use this, that, TripAdvisor, Yelp, whatever it is that we might be, Alexa, Siri, we're using different things. So something as simple as street versus ST, or having a suite number and not, GE Road versus General Electric Road gets people all the time. Having a different phone number to try and track different means of marketing will actually throw you off in Google's eyes. So Google grades us as business owners and says, if your information is consistent across all of cyberspace, you must be a legit business. I give you an A in that category. So there's like multiple different categories of SEO that ultimately go into how high you go up in search results. But if you have an A for listings or your discoverability, Google's going to say this business is real, this business is legit, it has its information consistent across all these platforms. When somebody's searching for that industry, it might get higher, get an A in that category. So it's very important that you have it. So in front of you, you have another action item number 2. Again, there's so many different platforms, but I picked out some of the most popular ones, if you will. Just kind of do a sanity check on your own business to see if you have a presence in those places. Website, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Twitter, your signage at your building. Is your chamber listing updated? When was the last time you updated your chamber listing? Right? You forget. You have a new contact, right in there. Next door, things like that. And then ask yourself, does that stuff look relatively similar? If I go to Twitter, am I going to see something completely different than I go on LinkedIn versus Facebook versus what I see on a billboard? Am I going to be confused? And this is actually near and dear to me right now because I keep finding my old logo. I just changed my logo. I keep finding my old logo. I says, oh my God, one more spot. So trying to make sure that it's all consistent. Okay. Any questions so far?
Is logo something that Google can do? Like, what about when people do like
Not,
25th anniversary or?
yeah, not so much, I don't think the logo, but rather just so you don't confuse your clients, right? Or your potential clients. So I have somewhere another quick illustration before we get to the next slide. Nobody look at me. Just put up an ad. How many people can see it? Nobody. It's not working. I tried that. It's not working. Right. It's in my ad. Okay. Oh. Everybody. But now who can see my ad? Right? And now everybody can see my ad. Right? So no matter, my point here is, no matter which way you're facing at any given time, you can see at least two of them. Right? So it's important to choose multiple channels, multiple angles, so that no matter which way I'm facing, 2, 3, right? So no matter which way I turn as a buyer, I'm seeing you somewhere. If I would have just put up that ad, I would have been a waste of marketing dollars, right? It's also important to know, well, that was my other demo. That it's not everybody is your client, and that's okay. You want to be targeted so that you have efficient use of your marketing dollars. So we have another action item, number 3, is to help you kind of think through who your target market is. So who's your ideal client? You might have multiple, you might reach old people and young people, but just pick one for now. And determine, where do they hang out? Meaning, like, where are they? What do they do? If it's like soccer moms and they're always at the baseball field or soccer field. And what media are they consuming? That's where you want your brand to show up. Okay. An extreme example of like not having your brand in the right place would be if you are trying to reach the older people and you're advertising on TikTok and Snapchat, right? That's extreme, but you're not going to be reaching them. So you really need to think through, where are these people hanging out, and having the right audience interact with your brand in the right place at the right time is going to make all the difference. I do have a quick example that I meant to do before the target market, but one of the things with I tried that, it didn't work. I like to use the example when it comes to marketing about the multiple angles. You're driving down Veterans Parkway, you see a billboard, it has a hammer on it, and you keep driving. You don't even know you saw the hammer. You have no idea you even saw the hammer until you stop at the stop sign next to a van that has the same hammer on it. And you're like, huh, a lot of coinky-dink. I've seen that hammer twice today. And you keep driving about your business, but you're like, I don't want to deck around my hot tub. Maybe I should inquire. Go about your day, you come to the chamber lunch, you go home, you pick up your neighborhood magazine, flipping through it. You're like, huh, it's the third time today I've seen that hammer. ABC Hammer Company. I'm gonna call them. Not right now. Instead, what do? You get on Pinterest, deck ideas, right? Pin. And then tomorrow you get on Google. It's the Hammer Company, because you've seen it 3 times, you remember the name of the business, right? Then you get on, you're checking out their website, you're reading some articles, these people seem legit, you're kind of doing your research, you might call a friend. Yes, I used them, they were awesome. So I finally call the number that's associated with Google and say, hey, I would like a quote on my deck. They're like, my Google ads are working. Really, what method of advertising brought me? Right, all of them working in conjunction with each other, reinforcing each other. Maybe it was the friend that pushed them over the edge. Maybe it was the Google ad. I don't know, whatever it may be. The point is they saw it in multiple directions and acted on it. So I like using that as an illustration. Okay, so how do we do this? There's multiple things here. Tiny short-term attempts might reach a few people, but branding is a long game. Okay, it's 8 to 15 touches. You need at least 12 times repetition. So if you're doing something and you do it for 2 or 3 months, you're like, I tried that, didn't work. Well, you didn't give it enough time. It's also important that you do the multiple channels. Studies are showing in our industry that print and digital, when combined together, are 400% more effective because they're just reinforcing each other. You see it here, you see it there, you trust print more than you trust digital, but once you see it on digital and you see it on print, you're like, this must be legit. Again, back to the consistent messaging and making sure that it's the same across all platforms. I do have an example of this too. One of my clients got a billboard. I'm like, hey, new billboard. He's like, thanks. You like it? I'm like, yeah. Looks nothing like your ad in the movie. He's like, oh. If you have like a little girl blowing bubbles in the magazine, you've got a giant mosquito on your billboard. It looks like two completely different companies, right? Now you might know who the company is, but he will appreciate that I'm throwing him out there. So we talked and I got in touch with the billboard girl and I said, hey, I like your artwork for the billboard. Could I use it in the magazine? It behooves us both to make sure that our common client has consistent branding across multiple channels, even if it's a channel that we don't offer ourselves. So don't be afraid to get your marketing people to talk to each other. And if you need help, just call me. Sponsorship. So sponsorship versus advertising. All sponsorships are advertising. Not all advertising is a sponsorship. What I mean by that is pure advertising in its pure form, and this is totally not to bash any form of marketing. I love all forms of marketing as long as you're doing marketing, doing multiple ones. But billboards and direct mail, I think we all could agree, do nothing for the neighborhood. It puts out a message, it does its trick, but it leads with a buy from me message, right? On the flip side, you have Race for the Cure, sponsoring teams, golf outings, this, that, the other. You're still putting your brand out there, but you're leading with I care. Oh, by the way, buy from me, right? So picking some sponsorships, some level of giving back to the community is gonna be good for you to have in your marketing mix. All right, the marketing funnel. I kind of don't like the marketing funnel because I feel like some people are like, oh, the marketing funnel. But if you've never seen the marketing funnel, it is actually an eye-opener. I think it's pretty universal that if you think about your industry, no matter what industry you're in, that 60% of any given time, people are just completely unaware of your brands and have never done business with you. Like maybe don't even know what you do. Then there's another 20% that are aware of your brand, but have never interacted with you. They don't know that you have a solution to their problem, or maybe they've just never encountered the problem that they have a solution for. Example, back to the mosquito guy. My old house, I didn't have any trees. I didn't have any vegetation. I didn't have any bugs. I just moved. Sitting there one night, I'm like, wait, I'm getting eaten up. It's like, I need you to treat my yard. Before I didn't have that problem. All of a sudden I did. But because I knew him, I'm like, I knew who to call, right? Top of mind awareness because he's been in front of me over and over and over again. There's 17%, which is kind of these two combined, that are interested, have a problem, know that you have a solution, and they're doing research. comparing you to your competitors. So how are you going to get them to choose you versus your competitor? And then at any given time, there's 3% who are ready by now, have a problem, need it fixed ASAP, and are ready to pull the trigger, possibly with you, possibly with your competitor. So there are different means of advertising that you should be doing for each of these. To move your unaware people to aware, to research mode, to buying, to loyal. Okay. What are those things? To get the attention of unaware traffic and draw awareness, introduce your brand or logo to your target market in all the ways, right? Show up where they're hanging out. SEO and keywords on your website, networking, trade shows, booths, cold calls, drop-ins, introduce yourself, and align with the good that's happening in the community. All of those things are like putting you out there so that people can at least see you and see who you are. Got some writers. I think this is being recorded too, so if you need to go back in a week or so, it'll be on the Chamber Library. For the middle section, the interested, research, consideration mode, the 17% that are kind of trying to figure out if they need to use you. The ways you could reach them would be educational articles, having strong website and social pages where maybe you're posting and educating through social media, blog, having professional images. Hey, I know, girl, can help you with that. But there's something to be said about having your own business and your own people versus stock images on your social media and your website. So if you need a branding shoot, hire it done. Teresa Clockengay does a great job here in the chamber as well. The most important thing is to have high quality professional images for your marketing materials. And testimonials from happy clients and have those out there. Newsletters and email campaigns. You can get somebody to like QR code to sign up for a newsletter and then you're just dripping on them from time to time. They see you. Guess what? It's a 8th touch and a 10th touch and an 11th touch. And finally on the 15th one, they might call you. Or when you call them, they'll be ready. The action down here at the 3. This is where I see a lot of people putting a lot of money of their marketing dollars in the action. Trying to go after that 3% that they're sharing the 3% of the market with their other competitors. I would suggest to you to like put some dollars where the 97% are and try and develop relationships with them at the beginning. Because if you just go after the 3% who are rated by now, yes, it's like quick ROI, but how loyal do you think they're going to be when they need you again? They're going to be quick to grab the next coupon or the next big deal and move on. But if you started the process with them way up here in unaware traffic and you like made them aware and they have warm and fuzzies that you were helping the community, and then they saw like your research and your articles and you're educating them, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. When I need something, maybe I'll pay a little extra, get something from somebody that knows what he's talking about. Then when I need them again, I have a relationship with them versus just a transaction because you've taken them through the whole process, right? So that brings you down to loyalty. Spend a few marketing dollars on loyalty, referral rewards, repeat customers, thank yous, anniversary of doing business. It's been a year. The anniversary from the day we met, whatever. Okay. All right, so moving on to being heard. And this has a couple of facets actually. One, what are your customers and potential customers hearing from your staff? Answering your phone, and are they having a good day? I will tell you, in 6.5 years of making cold calls, there are some businesses that have people answering their phones that are not having a good day. And I think to myself, man, if the business owner knew how bad of a day you were having, and what message you're putting out about that brand. They would be mortified, right? So if you even question who might be answering your phone, maybe consider having somebody else answer your. But the other thing is, how is your staff answering questions? Are they consistent? So this is important to have the team meetings. What are your top 5 or 6 frequently asked questions? And how are your people answering those around the community, around your peers? Because if you're getting a different answer from this person than this person and this person, or maybe they're just not understanding, then you're like, people talk, right? Mouth advertising, like, well, they told me this, well, they told me this. You want to make sure that it's consistent. Your message is consistent, no matter who's spewing it out of their mouth. The second component of being heard is the expert articles that we talked about, or your expert public speaking or podcasts or blogs or whatever. So in front of you, you have action item number 4, which is, what is your niche? What are you an expert at? And then how is your target market consuming the information? That's where you want to put your content. Content is king. Now, I want to talk real quick about being an expert versus being the expert. I talk to a lot of people and they're like, man, I just started my business. I'm a brand new plumber and I know what I'm doing, but like, for me to call myself the expert, so-and-so that's been in town for all these years, here's the thing. You are more of an expert at what you do than I am. And probably chances are more of an expert than 9 out of 10 people that you're sitting in front of on a daily basis. I'm more of an expert on marketing than David is. That's why he's here, right? Michelle is more of an expert at this than you and that. So be confident and have conviction that you know what you're doing, and then put it out there. Because what happens is people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And when you have content and are educating people, you're gonna be like, huh, I know what they're talking about. When I have a question, I might reach out, right? Or if I need that service, that's who I'm going to. If you imagine, let's use plumbing again for an example. You come home from a long day at work and there's like 10 plumbers parked on your street. They all are in white vans, right? And you're like, what are all these plumbers doing on our street? And you open your door and you are like flooded. You're like, whoa, now I know why the plumbers are on the street. Emergency. Which one of them are you having coming in? You with the yellow expert hat, come on in, right? Because I've read your article, I've seen your brand, and I trust you. Out of all these people that I've never seen before, come on in and fix my problem, right? Otherwise, would I care at that moment in time? Probably not. I would just go in and start making dinner. But because I was faced with a problem, I need an expert ASAP. Boom, that's you. Make sense? So think through that. If you don't know all the answers right now, take it as a worksheet and work on it from your desk. The last piece of the equation is being felt. Unique brand experiences. So if you have a product or service, you can give them a little taste of like what they're gonna receive. Family Express. I didn't even think of this as an example, but hey, you just tasted their food. Now you might be like, hey, let's call on them for a catering event. Perhaps prior to that, you maybe never would have even thought to, but you got a little sample, right? You see massage people at trade shows, give them a little 5-minute massage. You're like, man, I need an hour of that, right? Whatever it is that you do or offer, can you give a little dose? Can you give a little demo? Just to give people a little touch of what they might experience with your brand. And then think about, I'm asking you to be a mind reader here, but think about after they've seen you and after they've heard from you, what do you think their expectation is in doing business with you, right? And then take another step to that. And so we're going to call that the virtual experience. They have in their head like, wow, this is a beautiful logo. I walked into this beautiful business. I should get a beautiful experience. right? But compare that expectation in their heads, that you don't know what it is, but to what you're actually delivering. And I just had an example of this the other day, and I won't say what business it was. New business, beautiful logo, beautiful space. I walked in and the girl at the counter was like this. And like, she didn't even say hi when I walked in until I got to the counter, and then she popped up and she's like, "Can I help you?" Yes. But like, my immediate like reaction was like, well, this was reversed, right? Like my experience in my head was gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be a great experience. And then I got in, I was like, well, maybe she's having a bad day. Right? So think through that. The other piece of being felt is the warm and fuzzies from giving. Be a giver. There's a Zig Ziglar quote, and I probably have it here somewhere in my notes, but it's something along the lines of, if you give enough people in life everything that they want, it'll all circle back to you and you'll get everything that you want. Let me see if I can find it. You'll get everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. So align with a charity, serve on a board, volunteer. People tend to reciprocate good deeds by patronizing your business. So you have another action item. Think through like what products and services you offer. And is there something to that that you could donate or give it a discount? Or is there a near and dear to you cause that you could align your brand with that becomes kind of your mission, right? People will see that. People will see you being a giver, and it all comes back full circle. It may not be right away, but it does because you're being a giver. Okay. Leveraging partnerships. This is actually one of my favorite things. And I'm gonna take these down for a second, but leveraging partnerships, some of us in the industry are calling it partnership marketing. It's thinking through your service and then think about the step prior to your product or service. This is confusing. I have a couple examples, but then think about the product or service that follows your product or service. Those would be your power partners. Also think about who maybe in a different industry shares the same clientele as you, right? Who could you be referral partners with without competing for the same people, if that makes sense. But it's not a bad thing to play nice with your competitors, because if you team up, you'll draw attention to your industry as a whole, right? So maybe, trying to think.
I have an example.
Yeah, let's hear it. I was gonna try and
I
whip
had a
out.
leaking pipe
Okay,
and messed up our wall. And so I needed someone to replace the pipe. I needed someone to replace the drywall and paint the wall, and it wasn't the same people.
Right.
So if the plumber, would have known somebody, I mean, I found it on my own, but if the plumber would have known somebody that could have done the drywall, vice versa, it would have.
they would have just been able to, yep, exactly. So on your sheet, I want you to think through this as I give you these other examples. And if you may not have somebody for before, after, and same clientele, some industries are really going to be hard. If you need help trying to brainstorm, just let me know. But one example that's easy is a realtor. So the step prior to being the realtor activities would be a decluttering company and a cleaning company, right? So if I'm a decluttering company and I know that like somebody just hired me to declutter because they're about to put their house on the market, and I am good friends with a realtor, I might be like, hey, you two should meet, right? Or here's a referral for you, give them a call. They might be putting their house on the market. Following activities of selling a house might be a furniture and decor company, because you got to fill a house with some furniture, right? And a landscaping company, because maybe you don't like what they did, or maybe they didn't have landscaping, period, and you're a gardener. People with similar clientele as a realtor, maybe a mortgage lender, and an appraisal company. So those would be power partners or a realtor. And I know David is in some networking groups with me and he works really closely with some realtors, referral partners. They call on David for mortgage lending and vice versa. Another example would be a wedding venue or a banquet hall. Preceding activities would be a jeweler or an engagement photographer. Hey, Mr. Wedding Venue, I just photographed this couple who's going to be looking for a venue for their wedding. Or maybe I'm just like, here's a brochure. Maybe I have marketing materials for those wedding people, right? Following activities might be a formal wear store or a travel agent. Or a honeymoon. So those would be, and then similar clientele, a DJ or a floral shop. So those would be ones that would work really well together. So like, I didn't catch your name.
Erin.
So like Erin said, it would have been nice if her plumbing company would have had a drywall company that would have had a painter. Like, and then she wouldn't have had to do all the extra work. These people are waiting for you to call them and ask them for coffee. You just have to find them. You're like, hey, you know what? It might make sense for us to be referral partners. Would love to grab a coffee, just learn more about who you are and what you do, share with you what I do and see if it makes sense for us to partner up in any way or be good referral partners. Super easy. Just a little touch on networking, because there is an entire, I think, 40-minute thing on networking in the Chamber Resource Library. Whether it be you're all Chamber members because you're here. There's other networking groups. There's things to do online, LinkedIn, Alignable, Facebook groups. The point there is engage, be present, and get involved. You're going to get out of networking what you put into it. So if you're just like signed up to be a member, but you're not active, you're not going to get as much out of it. We're getting close, I promise. One of the biggest questions that I get is, how much should I spend on marketing? Probably one of the most common questions I get. This might shock you, but for brand new companies, it is suggested that you spend 12 to 20% of your gross revenue on advertising, marketing, branding. But if people don't know you're in business, you're not in business. Right? I love this, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but our CEO of our Best Version Media is the company that I partner with on the magazines. Our CEO says, the guy who doesn't advertise, as he gets up out of his advertised bed, puts on his advertised health slippers, is in his advertised shower, uses his advertised soap and shampoo, puts on his advertised clothes and his advertised shoes, gets in his advertised car, stops at his gets his advertised coffee, just to stop at his building to put up his first advertisement, going out of business, right? If people don't know you're in business, you're not in business. You gotta invest in your business. It's not necessarily an expense. A lot of people put it in the expense category, and then it has this icky, like, negative connotation to it. It's an investment in your future business. And established companies is a little bit less, 6 to 12. There's another stat from the Small Business Administration. They say 7 to 8. So a couple different resources there. 6, 7, 8, 10, give or take, if you're a new business, is a good rule of thumb as far as how much you should be spending. How do I know if it's working is probably the second most frequent question I get. And I love this graphic. 1, 2, am I skinny yet? Like, don't we wish it was that easy? It's just the same thing. Marketing is kind of like going to the gym. If you do it for 1 or 2 times and then you stop, everything you just did, all that momentum is lost. Similarly, if you go to the gym for a week or 2 and then you're like, sweet, my pants are starting to fit a little looser, and you stop going, you're like, well, now they're tight again, right? So it takes time, repetition, consistency, keep going, 12 months, even 24 months. Keep going, because just when you think it's not working, when you stop, you start something new. I hear all the time, I tried that, didn't work. How long did you try it? 3 months. Tried that, didn't work. How long did you do it? A year. You're doing anything else? No, that was it. Like, those are the reasons that any form, and people can, I hear about everything. You can't tell me radio doesn't work, billboards don't work, magazines don't work. They might not work individually by themselves, but if you're doing those things in a marketing mix that makes sense to reach your target market, then they do work because they're reinforcing each other. ROI is not necessarily taking a person who has never heard of you to an instant customer. I mean, that happens. I love it when that happens. Most of the time, you have to take them through that funnel. So how do you know if it's working? Do the people who have never heard of you now recognize your brand? And that method of advertising worked. Do those who had heard about you but not yet used your service, have they started researching you? And have they signed up for an email newsletter blast? And whatever you did to get them there worked. Are the people in your database now asking for pricing options? Then whatever you're doing worked. Are the people with pricing in their hands making a purchase? Worked. Are the people who have used your product or service in the past becoming repeat customers? Then your loyalty marketing dollars are working. So when you're trying to track ROI, be fair with what you're tracking, if that makes any sense. Probably every single media in my industry, no matter whether it be radio, TV, billboards, they say, I tried that, it didn't work, or what's my ROI, or whatever. I'm like, we hate that ROI question because we know that businesses are not tracking the right thing. They're tracking, did it convert immediately to a sale? It could take 4 years for me to have a plumbing problem. You know, it took me 2 years to have a mosquito problem. I knew the guy for 2 years and I finally used his service, but I didn't have a problem. So in conclusion, once you define your target market and define who you are as a brand, if you put that brand where your target market is, be seen, be heard, and be felt in all the ways. Leverage those partnerships that make sense for your business, and develop relationships with those that are most likely to share the same clientele as you. Be present in the community, be consistent, and give it time to work. Now, one last activity. Can you draw my new logo? So in front of you, you have a blank note card and do your best. It could be terrible. You get bonus points if you can draw my old logo. But see how well you can do on drawing my new logo. And then if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that.
So
Get down.
Oh. But you saw it like 20 times. Anybody have a guess?
I do, but it's not.
It's okay. We're not here to be artists. If you need a colored pen, I have some.
Purple and black.
Anybody else have a guess?
Put your old one.
Ooh.
Science.
Sciencey.
Big bang.
I think that's your old one, but I don't think I know.
Anybody else have a guess? Good. Ooh. So you guys are you all have a great idea. Got it? Okay, anybody else have a guess? Everybody had the concept, which was this. So this is photography with a target market, right? And networking.
I don't know what the swirl was. Oh, I see now. It's a,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, just kind of fun. When I started my business, I had like the pixels and somebody drew the little squares. But it was pixels for my photography. And I was like, I have all these other things that I do now. So I just rebranded and redid my logo to try and encompass all that I do. So photography, target marketing, and networking. With purple still, because purple is my favorite color. And my new business cards are in today, but I don't have them in hand. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Follow the QR code. And I will tell you, she just came from unaware to aware, and will now start seeing my posts, right? Like, it's all marketing, it's all branding. So would love to grab coffee with those of you who I've not met before and see how we might be able to brainstorm and apply some of this to your own business. Any questions? No questions?
How dominant do you think LinkedIn is?
I think a lot of people in the professional world, especially if you do business to business, utilize LinkedIn. And there is another chamber training on the resource library, about LinkedIn also, getting a good profile and kind of ways that you can use it within your organization. So like you can search for, like I use it to find owners. Like I'm looking for marketing people and owners. So you can search owner, search marketing, you can search dentist. So if there's a specific industry that would be a power partner for you, you can search them on LinkedIn and try and connect with them on there.
If you had, sorry, this is kind of an obnoxious question, but if you could do one of these things on this list, or if you had money to put one, you know, one of these things, what would you spend the money on? Because we're looking at a situation where we can spend probably a little bit of money, but we don't know what to do first.
Yeah, it's a great question. I would make sure that your listings are accurate and that you are discoverable online. So most digital companies have a listing service. I also can provide listings as part of the plan that we do, but listings is so important because if you're not consistent, you're just not showing up. If people don't know you're an option, what is your business?
We're a
Oh, you're the-
nonprofit.
You're a nonprofit. Yes, I remember. Yeah, I mean, and even like if I think about if I'm on vacation, my son and I just went to Houston this summer. I'm like, it was 150. It was his off week between football and football. And I'm like, all right, we're going. Where do you want to go? He's like, how about Houston? And I was like, 112 degrees down there, 120 degrees. We went and it was hot. So I was looking at things to do to stay cool in Houston. Okay, but guess what? Things started popping up, right? Based on my search. And it was businesses that had listings. And then there's also this thing called retargeting. So because I searched for that, then I was starting to see other relevant things like air conditioned bowling and whitewater rafting and floating and tubing. And I was like, ooh, floating and tubing, that looks interesting. So I clicked on it. It was 4 hours away. I'm like, dang it. I'm not gonna drive 4 hours there and 4 hours back for a 2-hour float trip, even though it's stinking hot. That's like half of a full day or whatever. So, but then guess what? I kept seeing that same ad every single day. I'm like, stop teasing me with this float that is impossible for me to do right now. And then I saw it for like a week later when I got back because of the targeting. But once I was able to like search for those things, the things that were popping up as options were ones that had local listings. Right? If you weren't even an option, how would I know? So I would definitely look at listings as a thing, but there's other things like volunteer, put your name out there, do a chat, do a blog, put it out. Where are your people? That doesn't cost you anything. This didn't cost me anything except for some food, right? So there are things that you can do to put your name out there without spending a fortune, but you are going to need to spend a little bit just to make it happen.
You mentioned Alignable. Can you talk about that at all? Cause it just started getting emails. I thought it was spam. I had no idea what it was. And I've seen it pop up a couple other places. I created a profile, but didn't know how far to go in. So can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, it's kind of like LinkedIn, only on a more local level. So, and there's ways to like do shout outs and reviews for each other. So like if you're in close ties with a networking group or something, maybe you hop on and do reviews for each other. It's a great way. It has been a great way for me, as somebody who's like tired of cold calling people and dealing with your rude people that are answering the phones. No, for just an alternative way for me to get to the business owners. You know, if it is a way that if that's, and it could be other people, there's other like salespeople or realtors and, you know, stuff like that on there that. Maybe you're not necessarily trying to reach the owner of a corporation, but just like the small to medium sized local businesses, it's a great way to network. And I always just ask to grab coffee. I'm like, hey, great to connect with you. I'd love to learn more about your business. You know, you have time to have coffee next week, learn more about each other, see if we can help each other in any way. A little creepy style. You don't sell on those things. You don't want to like overindulge and oversell because then people are like, oh, icky, right? But if you're just asking for a, you know, innocent coffee, usually people are glad that we met. So, question? You want it to look like your LinkedIn profile
Well,
and
and
your
that's,
Facebook page.
yeah.
So that if
Well,
people are
and
gonna-
I'm a financial advisor, so we're very, very heavily regulated on what our social medias can look like.
Okay.
And so that's part of the reason I hesitated as I went through that, because
Sure.
I'm like, am I allowed to say this? Am I allowed to put that? My company's never said anything about Alignable, so that's why I was like, is this even a real thing?
So I would just follow whatever they say you can do on Facebook. It's probably
Just follow the same.
Another question. I'm gonna pick my favorite and I'm gonna give whoever my favorite is a free mini photo shoot. How about this one had? All right, whose is this? Was that yours?
No, mine had an arrow.
Okay.
Does that have an arrow?
Frame it if it's yours.
Let me see. I can't. Oh, that is mine. Yeah.
Good, we'll do a free mini photo shoot, whether it be branding or whatever you need to do a shoot. Sound good? Awesome, guys. Let's get step around.